I need a confirmation of the agenda. Walter, Steve, all in favor? Carrie? Any disclosure of pecuniary interest or any other conflict of interest? No? Walter, no? No conflict of interest? If we have Pauline, can we please have her? Pauline, are you there? Pauline? Is Pauline there? Carla, can you please check and see if Pauline's there, please?
We did, and she's showing she's on. At least now it's showing that she's muted. So Pauline, if you can hear us, if you want to unmute by pressing the on the left-hand corner, you should see a mute and unmute. Alternatively, we can move on, June, and we will contact Pauline and put her on later on in the agenda if you would like to do that.
Okay, there's a problem there, Carla?
She's showing on our end that everything's good, but we can't hear her, so.
Okay, we'll go on to the minutes of the previous meeting, please. Are there any errors or omissions? If not, I need a motion to accept the minutes as written. Paul, second. John, all in favor? Carried. We'll go on to the, is Pauline there now?
We're going to try to call her, June.
Okay, thank you. We'll go on to correspondence. Ontario Provincial Police, the 2020 Court Security Prisoner Transportation Grant remainder. And everyone has read that. You understand what it is? Is that correct? John, you know what that is? Okay. I need a motion to accept then, please. Steve? Paul? All in favor? Carried. We can move on to the false alarm reports, and hopefully we have Pauline before we do the the police service board reports. Any questions on the false alarms? One month is worse than the other. It is what it is, I guess. I'm assuming that they're still sending out letters, right, to those that are in violation. Okay.
We send out the any letters that need to be sent out are sent out monthly.
Thank you. I need a motion to accept. Walter, seconder. John, all in favor? Carried. Do we have Pauline yet, Carla?
No, we'll ask her to address herself when she is able to connect. Everything on our end is fine, so we're still trying to get a hold of her.
Can we move to the police service board report for August then, gentlemen, if you don't mind, and thank you for doing this. So Scott, are you going to do that?
Sure. Thanks very much, June, for having us here today. And it's nice to see everybody's face. We've been kind of on the phone for a bit. So it's nice to see everybody there on the camera. So
Still can't get the muffins this week, June.
I made them. Where are you, Rob?
We'll come over later.
Okay, Scott.
Jimmy, as kind of the trend's been going here, we're calls for service in August have been down slightly again from 2019, from 332 to 276. We've kind of been maintaining our foot patrol hours between 20 to 30 hours, and again, we found that range for August in West Perth. We had 2 focus patrols that we're kind of working on, and you'll see we had about 20 hours worth of those patrols. They're related to a traffic speeding complaints on Blanchard Street South and Huron Road in Mitchell there. And that was to run from July 1st till the end of September. So we put a number of hours into that. We've laid a number of tickets, and we're still monitoring that. So it's going fairly well. The other one was a focus patrol for the livestock, Brussels Livestock Company there, was related back to the fatality in Burlington. And that focus patrol has been wrapped up and we're complete with that. And we've had no major occurrences in.
Yeah, I can comment to that. I'm not sure if it was in Huron I commented because that investigation branched over into both Huron and Perth County with Brussels Transport. One of the things that we did between Huron and Perth County because of the location of the Brussels livestock is we did those proactive patrols. Our provincial liaison team was very engaged in meeting and communicating with the owner as well as the driver who lived up I think in South Bruce area to ensure that there was some safety planning, and certainly because it mainly fell in Huron County Crime Unit with the assistance in Perth County as well, did an amazing job tracking timelines and just monitoring and keeping track of information on social media. And I think, quite honestly, through those proactive efforts, it mitigated any of those extremist groups from attending up in our communities. Predominantly, the focus was down, as Scott said, down in the GTR and Burlington area, Halton, I believe. And that's where we were able to keep it. I truly believe that through our uniform officers patrolling in those areas really mitigated any issues for anyone in our community here, which given we have enough issues to deal with when we get these extremist groups coming out into our area, which is predominantly agriculture, and certainly they have their constitutional right to free speech and assembly and all those things, but certainly it's always a balance between that and interfering with the livelihood and rights to people to conduct their livelihood as well. So I think we successfully mitigated that, and it was well done by everyone.
Our community mobilization hours. So it was just a shy of 10 there in August. You folks know that we work pretty hard as far as the mental health calls for service. We have a great crisis worker that attends with us. And as far as the whole county, it's one of the things that we do struggle with as far as the mental health calls. We deal with a lot of them, and it does tap our officers quite a bit. The MCERT program has been just so effective. And June, as you know, we owe a big thanks to Scott Bentley. He was a major advocate and a proponent of that whole program. And I know they're looking into getting a second crisis worker in the late fall or early spring in the winter time. So it'd be nice to get another person in the county that we share with Stratford Police Service, Perth, and Huron County. So we're always working with that. As far as the ride programs, we had 54 hours of ride in West Perth. And as you'll see in August and then in September, we had a number of impaired occurrences, impaired driving, which would relate well as far as how many hours we put into the results we're getting. And as you know, our auxiliary program is still trying to get some traction due to COVID. So we're still down with our auxiliary members. They are doing a few odd events if they're allowed, if it fits in the criteria, but otherwise they're still kind of down for due to COVID. So
Yeah, and just on the auxiliary program, all our auxiliary members want to be here. We would love to have them here. But from an organizational perspective, we understand that this is a volunteer component for them. And if they were to put themselves kind of, in harm's way with COVID or anything through their duties as an auxiliary, it could impact their own livelihood and their employers that they may work for. So we're being very cautious with those members because we value what they do, but we understand that this is a volunteer position for them as well.
So we had 3 impaireds in August and 5 stunt driving. So stunt driving is over 50 kilometers an hour. So a lot of that is good proactive police work by the members in West Perth. So kudos to them, and we're trying to keep our roads as safe as we can. As you know, school was still not in August, so we have nothing to report for as far as any school activity.
Just a quick update on the school program, school resource officer program. We have been working, and Scott has been working as well, to see where we kind of stand with that program. We've got great communication with Jody Baker, the superintendent, and it's just because of the pressures that the schools are trying to do to be on track and actually accomplish what their job is to provide education to our youth. We kind of are a bit of a seat to them. And oh, did we lose somebody?
Hello?
Oh, there
Hello.
Is this Pauline?
Yes, Pauline Hartfield speaking. Yes.
Can I interrupt you, Scott? I'm sorry to do this to you. Do you mind?
No,
And we'll listen to Pauline. Thank you, Pauline. We're sorry about the non-visual, but we have a delegation from you, and we'd like to hear from you, please.
Okay, thank you. And I'm sorry on my end. Apparently my mic is muted and I was unable to connect that. But anyway, good morning to everyone. And I trust that everyone has had an opportunity to review my grievance regarding the lack of action taken by OPP in regards to the 12-hour parking bylaw. And were there any questions or that anyone had regarding that, my report?
You just need to tell us what your concern is, please, Pauline. I would appreciate that.
Okay, do I read what I submitted again, or does everyone have a copy of that?
I'm not sure everybody does.
Not everybody
Okay.
does. The delegation form is used for documentation to get on the agenda, but I apologize, Pauline, only the chair was privy to that letter.
Okay, so I will start again. Okay, I submitted my grievance report. West Perth has a 12-hour parking bylaw, number 19-2015. I am a homeowner of 68 ND Walt Lane, and every weekend for the past 2.5 years, a Lavis commercial vehicle, a mechanical truck, parks from Friday at 5:30 p.m. to Monday at 5:30 a.m. on the street in front of 63 ND Walt Lane. On July the 15th, 2019, I completed a bylaw infraction form along with photos and submitted it to Matt Burns. On August the 7th, Matt Burns ticketed the vehicle and a fine of $20 was paid. The issue of the ticket confirms that a bylaw was broken and the payment of the fine by the individual acknowledges his guilt. The commercial vehicle returned to parking on the street the following weekend and has parked on the street 99% of the weekends from mid-March to the end of October for 2018, 2019, and from April until the present for 2020. Matt Burns informed me that his business hours were from 8:30 until 4:30, and I was to contact the OPP at 519-348-9700 for enforcement of the bylaw. I called the number several times in 2019 and in 2020. I left a message stating the infraction of the bylaw. The recording stated that my call would be returned on Monday morning. I never received a return call. On June 15th, I called 1-888-310-1122. Officer Wagner came to our home and was very respectful. He listened to our concerns of the two bylaws that I was concerned about. One was the 12-hour parking limit, and the other was the method of parking. It is listed under the bylaw 19-2015 2A, page 8. This states that a vehicle while parked on the road other than on a one-way street must have the right wheel to the curb. Officer Wagner informed me that his sergeant was not aware of this bylaw, and I would like that to be revisited as well. So on June 17th, I made my call on the 15th to the OPP. On June 17th, Officer Wagner left a phone message informing me he had spoken to the individual at 63 ND Walt Lane and informed him of the parking limit. Later that week, I received another message from Constable Wagner informing me that after discussion with his sergeant, he was informed that police are not encouraged to enforce parking bylaws except during winter time. It is my understanding that Matt Burns and had a discussion with the detachment and possibly others privy to the meeting, and it was decided that the bylaw will only be enforced during Matt Burns' business hours or during the winter months. This is ironic, as it totally defies with everything that is written on the website, saying to call the police when an infraction occurs. It is my belief that the driver of the truck was informed that no action would be taken, so the truck has been parked for 36-hour time periods every weekend, with the exception of one weekend since that time. It's my belief that the driver of the truck, in the last email I received from the Municipality of West Perth was from Carla, and it states, "Good morning, Pauline. We hear your concerns and we're continuing to follow our process and understand that you are not happy with the current outcome. OPP, West Perth Bylaw Enforcement, and Police Services Board are aware of the current enforcement of parking bylaws and have not directed staff nor OPP to take additional tactics to our current process that allows us to proceed any differently than that in which we have already done. Have a nice weekend, Carla Preston." So as a resident of West Perth, I'm asking for the existing bylaw to be enforced. I find it unsettling that a meeting, a select group of individuals can arbitrarily decide which bylaws will and will not be enforced. I followed the directions posted on the Municipality of West Perth's website through this process. I was made to feel that I was an annoyance and I felt disrespected. We really shouldn't be here today. We're not here because a bylaw is not in place. We are here because the bylaws are not being enforced. And I ask for your attention to this matter.
Thank you, Pauline.
Okay, thank you.
We appreciate you taking time to bring this concern to us. And I'm still looking into it. So I don't know when there will be a resolution. If there can be, hopefully there can, and I will let you know at that point in time. Thank you again, Pauline.
Yes, and thank you. I do have all the emails in our correspondence, so if there's any confusion as to how we got to this place, that bylaws aren't enforced, I can provide more information if necessary.
No, and I do have, I do have them. I will tell you that the contract with the OPP is not intended to enforce bylaws. The agreement has always been if there is public safety involved, then OPP will interfere. Otherwise, they're municipal bylaws, and it works on a priority basis. So if they have other calls, they must deal with that first.
Yes.
Anyway.
I would respect that. I respect that. I just, it has been ongoing, and I feel that really at some point in the last 2.5 years, they must have had a few moments during the weekend to come by. That is my feeling.
Thanks, Pauline. Thanks. You have a good day. We appreciate
You as
you.
well.
Okay, take
Thank you.
care.
Bye now.
Scott, I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm sorry we interrupted you. Hopefully that's, we can continue on with your report.
Yes, no problem at all, June.
Thank you.
Kind of finish up into for August there. We had one noteworthy occurrence, certainly in the town of Mitchell there. We had a break and enter involved a number of firearms that were stolen from a residence. And I can tell you through some really good police work from our local officers in West Perth and also our crime unit. Within that week's time, we had recovered all the firearms at another residence, and we charged 3 individuals for a number of criminal offenses related to the break and enter and theft of firearms. So it was a real good investigation. And I know what I can tell you, like a lot of our occurrences, they do stem around drug use and mental health issues. That was kind of the stem for that one. So I think that's about it for August. June, any questions at all you guys have for?
Is there any questions, gentlemen? Any concerns? With mental health hitting the news every day with police, we're glad to hear that we have something in place to at least that you have a resource that you can refer to. So that's very positive.
Yeah, the MSHR program is working very well, how it's supposed to work. It's trying to decrease our time at the hospitals, and we take folks in there from the community to be assessed. So it's working well. The officers are just, you know, we get to know the individuals very well because a lot of the officers work in the same areas, so they know the folks they're dealing with, and we try and support them best we can. But
I think you're doing a good job. Nothing, gentlemen. We can move on to September then, correct? Any questions? Okay. Scott, if you don't mind, would you move on to the report for September?
yes. So September kind of brought us back into the school world with the kids. That was one of our main focuses, was to try and get out to the schools in the mornings, recess, after school, and be visible in the community, right? So, and I think we did that very well. All the shifts got involved in one of our focus patrols to have great visibility there. That was one of our biggest concerns. And I think the inspector alluded, we're still working with the board and through the region as to how we're going to get into the schools and where we're going to go with that.
Yeah, that's kind of been the challenge, and we're very respectful of the schools. They have a lot of challenges themselves, just trying to have children back at school and carry out their education program. So one of the things, and we are very supported here by the boards. I know there's pressures in many other places, but our boards still have a lot of support for us here. One of the things that we're looking at is trying to go to very much what we're doing now, to some virtual education within the schools. And I know Bill DeConner's looking at some of his opioid presentations along with Scott to see where we go from there, and Jill Johnson, our school officer. So that's ongoing. Stay tuned. But we are constantly, communicating with our schools and doing what we can to support them as well.
Thank you. Okay, Scott.
Our foot patrol is falls in that 20 to 30 mark in 26 hours. I'm a big advocate of foot patrol, and we certainly want to get out to the businesses and speak with the owners. I'd love to get downtown on the sidewalks and be visible. And if you ever hear from other business owners in town or folks, please let us know if good, bad, ugly. Let us know how we're doing down there, because big advocate of foot patrol, and we try and do as much as we can. So,
but we've certainly been challenged because of COVID-19. So,
yeah.
We all have those challenges.
Yeah.
Our community mobilization hours were down a bit from August for a few hours, and as was our ride program. And again, the auxiliary program was the same again. We had collisions were up a little bit in September, and of course our deer collisions also rose, that would make sense. And we could jump to right today. Right about now, they are starting to move around quite a bit, so certainly we got to be wary of that. In September, we had a definite increase of impaired driving. We had 6 impaired driving offenses, and they were related to traffic stops, ride programs, traffic complaints. So again, it's kind of kudos to the West Perth officers. They did a great job. They're being proactive out there. They're getting cars stopped. I didn't know, but our calls for service were down again in September compared to last year as well. So, and I believe that's COVID related. But as far as the impaired piece and our stunt driving, they're doing a great job on that. We had Labor Day weekend traffic campaign. It's a provincial initiative, and Perth County participated in that. And we laid 51 speeding tickets, 7 stunt driving charges, and 3 seatbelts. And there were 4 impairs over that as well. So that was a busy weekend. We had, I believe it was in September, we had a very unfortunate incident. I know I spoke with the mayor there just briefly. We had a young child there die at home there on the farm in a farm-related incident. It was very difficult for everybody. It's a terrible day for that family, and it's a difficult day for the officers and the paramedics on scene as well. I can tell you, we used our traffic investigative team came out and gave us a hand with that. It is ongoing, but it's pretty much investigated what's fullest, and we reached some conclusions on that. And then again, it was a terrible incident that day. So I know I tried to get a hold of you, June, but I think you might have been away that week.
Haven't been anywhere, sorry.
Oh, okay.
Could have been outside, but haven't been anywhere.
Okay.
But that is very sad. I agree with you. Has to be tough to deal with.
Yes. And we got back into September. We had a number of training courses to deal with for officers. We got back into our usual use of force training. Due to COVID, they kind of gave us all new dates, and we had to kind of rejig that and get the officers back on track for our annual use of force. So that kind of runs from September to December. So that's kind of one of the challenges we're working with. Again, we had the focus patrols in West Perth there on Blanchard Street, and also the school patrol. And much like in August, our violent crime and property crimes were decreased compared to 2019. And again, I think a lot of it is stemming back from the COVID piece, and folks are at home a little bit more. And saying all that, as you guys know, our mental health and our mental domestic occurrences are steady because of that. Anything else, Inspector, you want to go over? Nope. Any questions at all, June, or anybody else there?
Gentlemen, questions, concerns?
I just note overall, June, that in both August and September, the drillable calls for service were slightly less in both times compared to 2019, and that kind of stems from the decrease in the calls for service. Also want to add too that certainly the one thing I will comment on, I know it's caused, it's been very frustrating for everyone, including us, is the criminal background checks. There was a decision made to have it go to an automated system, which truthfully was working very, very well. But I believe the gap that happened was then there was a surge in influx when September came, and it just didn't meet the demand. So kudos to all our civilian staff here for rebounding. And actually, we've actually driven some more, we utilize the older system, but are actually found some efficiencies to make it a little better so that people don't have to come to the office as much as they did before, and then we'll move forward from there. So I think we've kind of worked through the backlogs to get those essential persons that require the checks, especially with teaching and nursing and essential care. to get them on their way. And so that was a bit of a blip in the screen, but we've had a lot of those challenges since March. So.
Anything else, gentlemen? Anything else you want to add, Scott?
I think just on the horizon right now, we're working on a police hospital transition protocol. I know we spoke a lot about the mental health piece. We're working towards refining and creating some more efficiencies with the hospital. There isn't actually a written protocol in place, and the government had asked that the hospitals and the police work together to create a protocol. So we're actually doing that, and so we're working with kind of the here in Perth concept, and so you have potentially 3 different police services and 5 hospitals are going to be, your hospital boards are going to be involved. So it's essentially trying to help the patient and help with their issues, the hospital and the police, and just trying to refine it and create some ground rules as to how when we go in and how we go in, and the process of trying to eliminate the wait times for everybody. So.
And that's probably more efficient than having an officer sitting there for hours.
Well,
which happened in the past, yeah.
Yeah, that can be one of our challenges. And when you say 1, it's usually 2. Our policy have 2 officers, right? So it can be an extended period of time. There's no doubt the hospitals have their own challenges, and obviously public safety and the safety of the patient, us and the hospital staff are paramount. So yeah, so we're working through it. It's going to take a bit of time, but we'll get there. So
good. Any other questions or concerns, gentlemen? John. Thank you, Scott. I need a motion to accept the OPP reports, please. Steve? Paul? All in favor? Carried. Okay. We can move on to the annual billing statement. Was this straightforward enough, John, that you were able to understand it? You're muted, John. Sorry.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Did you have any questions regarding it? Because you're the one that hasn't been through this before, so.
We have a figure per household. Are we happy with that, or?
That's how it's calculated, John.
Mhm.
So instead of doing it EFTs, it's now calls for service, and the number of households comes from impact. It's not, we have nothing to do with that, and neither does OPP. We have to take what they have, and the same with the commercial. We just have to take what they have, and that's how it's calculated. So it is kind of broken down. And we are in a positive position. I think everybody noticed that, correct? Yeah. And we have noticed that the calls for service have been down in the last couple of years, maybe up and down, but mostly down, which accounts for the credit. Okay. Any questions? Rob, can you tell me if we were credited, and I know it's not on this, okay, because I've looked. Remember when the admin assistant was missing here for, I don't know, 3 months or something?
Yes.
And I had asked if you could find out if we get a credit for that. Did you go back to police, municipal policing and ask how we get a credit for that, or?
My understanding is they look at the hours for each one, and if they don't meet it, they will put that back into to the municipality. So if we don't meet all the hours that are required, they will put that back in.
And where would we see that, Rob?
I'll have to check June and get back to you.
If you don't mind, please. I know it seems like.
No, it doesn't come out on that piece. They have math formulas. It looks like the Big Bang Theory. So I'll check, June, and I'll get back to you.
If you don't mind, I
Yep.
would appreciate it. Because it was more than a couple of days, or it's not like somebody was sick or whatever. We didn't have one, and it is part of the contract, okay?
Yeah, well, June, I will also add to that, we have done our best to backfill from other areas as well, so.
No, I'm not saying you haven't done a good job. That's not what I'm saying, Rob.
No, I totally understand that. Yeah,
I'm just dealing from a logistics point of view,
yeah, I'll check into it, June.
if you don't mind, please. Was there anything about the statements or the billing letter or the billing statement that anybody needs to ask about, or, and I know that it's not the first time most of you have seen it. Are we okay with that? And I know that next year's monthly is down too, so that's positive for our taxpayers, right? We need to have a motion to accept and file then, please. Paul? Seconder? Walter? All in favor? Carried. Okay, can we move on to the draft schedule? Now, if we have a meeting in December, this draft schedule shows a January start, but we don't really want one in December and January. I don't think we want one back to back. We've never had that. What do you think, gentlemen? Walter?
Well, I think if you have the one in December, that's going to be October, November, I guess, reports. And if you have one in January, it's only going to be the December report. So I think, yeah, you forego probably the one in January, I guess, and move it till, well, probably could go to March, and then you'll have January, February reports there, right?
You want to go to March? Just miss the January one then, go 3 months? Is that
Well,
what
it's what the rest of the board thinks, but yeah, there would be really very little if you met in December and then again in January.
What are you thinking, guys? The requirement, our requirement is to have a minimum of 4 meetings a year. This was the year that we were wondering if we were going to make that, but anyway, we did. Do you want to miss the January and just go to March? Or do you want to go to the alternate, the February, April, June, August? What's your thoughts? Steve?
I think we can cover things either way, but I don't know. I think we could probably just go till January, but it's what everyone else thinks also.
So have one in December and January, you mean, or miss the December?
Miss the December.
Okay. Paul?
I agree with Steve, I guess, is that I just hate to see us skip January in its entirety and then go to March. It just seems like a tremendously long time.
Okay.
So I would agree that, unless we end up moving our December to early December or late November, which again compresses things, but I'm not sure. I just don't think we want to totally get rid of the January meeting.
Okay, but you would get rid of the December meeting, is that correct?
Correct. Unless, and I'm not sure, maybe Carla had some ideas about how this was to work when she came up with the draft. I'm not sure. I know ultimately
this is our normal. This is what we were this year too, so this is what we've done in the past, Paul, if you look back. So I believe, isn't that correct, Carla? Yeah.
That's correct. And it tends to align nicer with the budget, the overall budget for council as well. again, this would be up to the board. I just didn't know with that week in December being already really busy, if there was consideration to perhaps cancel that December meeting. And
Okay,
then you have January.
And that's what Paul is talking about, canceling
Yeah.
December. John, what are your thoughts?
I would be fine going and having a meeting in January.
And missing December then? Is that what you're talking about?
I guess, whatever other people think,
I'm sorry?
whatever I mean, I can go either way, but, however works the best.
Yeah, like there's no point in us having a meeting in November because we're already here, right? So, and December, you're quite right, is busy. So we can miss the December one and go to the schedule that's set down. Now that's 3. Walter had suggested taking the December one and missing the January and going to March. So we need a motion and a decision. So how many are in favor of missing December and going to January for the first meeting in 2021? Oh, that's everybody. So you don't mind that then, Walter? That would be fine with you?
No, that's fine. It probably makes more sense to do it in January, and then you've got 2 months there. So no, that's fine.
Okay, so we need a motion to accept the meetings as listed, as presented for next year. Steve, seconder? John, all in favor? Carried. And it doesn't matter to me one way or another, so.
What's the date then in January then, June?
Sorry, January the 27th, March the 24th, May the 26th, July the 28th, September the 22nd, and November the 24th. And I believe we have to keep the minute meeting after the 21st, if I'm right, guys, from OPP? Isn't
Sorry,
it,
June?
our reports can't be ready before the 21st? Isn't that?
Yeah, it usually allows things to catch up there on our system, so.
So I think that whole thing meets the requirement then.
Yep.
Okay. We can move on to the budget discussion then, please. You were going to bring Angela in.
Yeah. So good morning, June. I'm going to ask Angela Anderson, our treasurer, to present the new budget form.
Thank
And just, we're going to have a conversation about the budget. This particular form also presents the budget to actual. So I'll ask Angela just to speak to that.
Thank you. Morning, Angela.
Good morning.
And you're feeling better?
Yes, just waiting out my mandatory 10 days. So
Okay.
hoping to be back in the office tomorrow. We've got a new budget form here. We've decided to do a multi-year budget this year. So we're budgeting 2021 to 2023 for operating. This should look like last year's. It's by account. The only difference will be that the crossing guards in our reporting actually fall under traffic operations and roadside. So these salaries and wages under the OPP section were crossing guards. However, they're going to be removed into a different department. So that might look a little bit different. There are budget changes. So we're trying to do and establish a base budget And then any 2021 proposed changes will be either annualization. So this would be contract increases or decreases, interest rates, increase in cost of input, legislated changes. This could be something like asset management, one-time special projects. So if there's a special initiative that we're going to take on in 1 year, that would be under that column. Changes in service levels. This would probably only come into play for police services if we were going to increase patrol or something like that, which would be reflected in our contract price. And then anything linked to the strategic plan. So anything identified in the strategic plan that we're going to take on for the year. I'm not sure who has a copy of the budget template that was created, but I put in some of the amounts that we did already know, like the POA fines from the county. I adjusted the contract price. It looks like it's going to be about an $1,800 savings.
Right?
And so basically all we need is if there's any changes to the budget from 2020. That's what we would want to reflect in this budget process.
Can I ask a question, Angela?
Yeah.
On your budget 2020 year to date, there is nothing, where am I here? There's nothing in there. There was a couple of things that I thought there should be an amount there, and there isn't anything in there. So when we receive this in 2021, we will be able to look at it and see what's been paid from month to month. Is that correct?
This is everything that has been spent to date. So cumulative January 1st until I believe October 15th, I did this report.
Okay. I can't see what I had a couple of questions and I don't see them here at all. Anyway, the other thing, my concern is that we won't get a listing of anomalies at all, of payments that aren't usual, like the, we know what the contract is. We know what those payments are monthly because they're static. They're the same year, month to month. But if there's other payments being made under the board's budget, we won't know what they are. Is that correct?
So the board's budget annually is about $8,000. So the way that you would see any anomalies is you've got the 2018, 2019, and 2020 actuals. So year over year, that's how you're going to see your anomalies. So if there's something odd in there, the spending's going to look significantly higher than the previous year.
But we won't know what it is.
Well, no, then you can just request that information if necessary.
Okay. My concern is that, and I understand you've passed this bylaw, that's the way council wants it, doesn't want anybody, just wants to be able to say, yes, this is what we're paying on your behalf. My concern would be that we actually don't know what they're paying on our behalf. Now, I don't know if that makes sense to you or not. I did auditing for a lot of years, Angela.
Yep.
So I know about discrepancies, oddities, anomalies, whatever. It concerns me when, and I guess it's due diligence that I'm talking about here.
Okay.
And
so everything is paid and processed as per our policies. So we have procurement policies, we have our employee handbook. There's a bunch of policies designed to guide staff in how they operate, basically. In terms of 2020 to date, the only things we have paid are salaries and wages for the Police Services Board's meetings. So there isn't actually anything else in the board that has been paid in 2020.
So we will not know what, I don't know, snow removal. I can't even think of what some of the anomalies have been, but I know we've had questions over the years. So we're not going to know this kind of stuff. It's
well, the
just
OPP facility is a municipal facility. So based on insurance regulations last year, we had to hire a contracted service in order to do snow removal at all of our facilities. So it's standard across the board. Whatever the cost is for OPP, hourly is going to be the exact same cost as it is for our library, our town hall, any other municipally owned facilities.
Yeah, and I'm not concerned about the other ones. I'm only in charge of this board. So this board is what I'm talking about, the due diligence and I know it's public funds, so taxpayer. Yes, Steve. Steve.
June, excuse me. Just to tie into what Angela has mentioned there, on one of the attachments you sent me a while ago from the OAPSB, somewhere in there it states, and I don't have it in front of me,
That's okay.
that Police Services Board are responsible to govern the police services, but it's the municipality's responsibility
To pay the
to
bill.
worry about paying for it. Yes.
Yeah, and my only concern is, can anything come back to us? Don't know, right?
I don't believe so. Once it's an authorized budget from council, it's a municipally owned budget.
So council's responsibility. So they're taking on that responsibility, and we no longer need to be concerned. Is that what you're saying, Angela?
Essentially, and then we're tracking and reporting on the progress and the year to date and following
So-
our internal procedures and policies.
So council is assuming the liability and the accepting the responsibility for all payments made on behalf of the board. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. Any other questions, gentlemen? Yep. Walter?
Yeah, and I don't think it was in this budget, but I did want to bring it up, and that is what do we call it? The speed sign or the radar sign?
Oh, right,
That
yes.
we have on the west of Mitchell. And that was a recommendation, I think, from this committee to
Yeah, it
council.
was.
And
Yeah.
I think it maybe came out of the roads budget. I'm not sure where it come from. I don't think it came out of police services.
Well, I haven't seen it.
I
I
don't
haven't
see
seen
it
the
yet.
price. Yeah.
It is in police services. This is the operating budget. It was a capital line. So it did come out of police services and it was purchased.
Okay.
Mike, I believe, did. take
Yeah, and that purchase was actually on the check registry and discussed at the last meeting in August under.
Now, council was also considering at the time purchasing a second one. Is that still a consideration, or?
Well, I guess that's why I brought it up, June, is
Yeah.
that I think it would be nice at least to have a pair of them.
Well, this one's very effective, and it's
It is.
quite
It
noticeable.
is.
I think it was well worth the money. It certainly slows the traffic down coming in from the west. Yeah. Yes, Steve?
I sit pretty close to that sign every day,
Yes, you do.
and I would say it's starting to lose its effectiveness. It was really effective for the first while, but I think,
Complacency?
yeah, maybe well said, yes.
Okay, that's interesting. That's interesting. So you're suggesting that maybe that could be moved? It's not easy to move though, is it? No?
I don't think it is that hard to move, is it, Walter?
Well, I know the county has I believe they have a pair of them, and they rotate them around and move them throughout the county. So it's
Can't be
all
that
how
hard.
they're fastened or whatever to the post that they put them in. Some of them have them on actually on the speed signs. If you're coming into a 50-mile speed limit, it'll be right on that sign. And you'll see what the speed limit is on the sign, and you'll see how fast you're going. And I think that's usually the way the county does, is they fasten them to an existing signpost that's there. So I don't know what's involved. Like ours out at the west end there looks fairly solid the way it's put in there. But I know, like I said, the county does move theirs around.
Anything else, gentlemen? Thank you, Angela.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And I know you're willing, if we have questions, to address them. So thank you very much.
No problem.
Anything else, gentlemen? On the budget, I guess we need Well, if we don't have control of the budget, do we need to approve it? Do we need, Angela?
Sorry, the board would have to like refer their budget to council. So if there's any modifications or if there was a speed sign that you wanted to put in, you would just recommend it and then we would put it in the budget and then take it to council for approval.
Okay, so there's no control, no requirement from us anymore. Okay.
You have a say in the budget. If there's anything that you need
There's
to
a
put in the
change.
budget, you can recommend those changes, yes.
And if I can just add, I think my recommendation to the board would be in terms of legislation. So when Angela was discussing, the one-time projects, the change in service level, the legislated would be that they keep saying it, but they are coming up with new training for police services board. So I don't know if the current $1,000 is going to cover it. They haven't said if it's going to happen in 2012.
No, and the one training, Carla, was going to be very, very expensive, but very difficult because it was online.
Yeah, this
So-
is a new training that they just announced, I think, within the last month.
But they've been talking about this for
Yep.
2 years because OAPSB was involved with the initial way back when the legislation was passed. And what they were talking about was like crazy, actually. It was like a professional training. So it would require you to take the course, pass an exam, and you could go on to the university level. It was, and that was when the legislation had passed. This is what is required, but it was going to take about 2 years to even set up the software for this because it was very complicated.
I'm just noting the recent legislative changes that did announce that it would be required this
Yeah,
year.
it was
but-
always, but they said that last year and it didn't happen. So, and we're into COVID this year, so it probably won't happen till next year. So we don't need to do anything with the budget, and that's the point. Okay. Any other discussions, or Paul?
Just a secondary point to Carla's comment, and I would just say, is there a downside to enhancing a line within the budget for that specific training if it does happen in 2021?
There is a training line, Paul. I don't know if you noticed it or not.
Well, I agree, but I think Carla's point was that it was only $1,000 if we don't ask for an increased amount up to, and I don't know what the number is, $5,000 or something like that. It's a line item. It doesn't mean we have to use it. That's all my point. Where the problem comes in is if in 2021 there's a requirement for us to start training, and maybe there's an enrollment piece that we have to go through, say 12 months from now in October of 2021, and it launches through 21 and into 22, and we have to pay for that up front. We don't have it in the budget. If we put it in the budget and we don't use it, no harm, no foul. That's my simple point, and I'm not sure, but we do have a problem if we have a requirement and no budget for it.
We would recommend it to council, though. This is my understanding that we would recommend the increase to council. It's not is that not correct?
I think, Angela, maybe you could clarify, that's what this sheet is here today. So right now, as Paul had mentioned, we would, most of it would carry over the same as it was last year, but the one-time project. So when Angela was referring to the base budget, our base budget for training is 1,000, and the cost of training, I do not believe that would cover the board for this required training. So that's where if you would then put in the 5,000 there, or the digital speed sign, that's something that's not in the current base budget. But if that's that one-time special project that you would like to recommend to council, that's where that would lie.
The training and development that I'm looking at here for a police service board is only $300. So that really does need to be increased. Walter, you're the one that always objects to increasing a budget. So what would you recommend?
Well, if you go up higher, June, in the budget, there is another, I gotta look here, training, continuing education. Is that the one? And it's $1,000.
Yeah, the education is, but there's also a training and development down below.
Yeah, and that one
Under-
is 300, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, we can, in what Carla and Angela have said, certainly we can increase that with the anticipation that there will be something. And
well, we
if
know
that's
one of these years we have to do it. We know
it's going
that.
to happen one of these times. And I guess the other way that you can handle it is if it happens in the year that we haven't got it in there, we just have to take it out of reserve and then pay it back the following year. And it'll appear in the budget one year or the next.
So which way is more acceptable, Angela?
It's either way. Essentially the Police Services Board gets to set this budget and then we take it forward to council for final approval. In terms of the training and development, if it comes up mid-year, it's a lot easier if it is in the budget, because then we don't have to look for a source of funding or look for somewhere where we might have some savings that we could apply to the
So-
training.
So with that said, then Paul, do you want to recommend an increase? And I guess it's continuing ed that you're looking at, Angela, not the training and development, eh?
Correct. Yeah.
Do you want to do that? Increase it to 5,000 or 6,000?
I would make a recommendation to increase it from its existing $1,000 limit for continuing education and training to 5,000. It would probably catch most of it, I'm guessing.
That's a motion. We probably need a seconder then to recommend to council. As far as the sign is concerned, that's already gone to council. Wasn't it last year that we suggested 2? So they already have knowledge of that. I don't think we should do it again. Right, Angela?
If you wanted to purchase another one, we would have to put that forward to council this year as well, just because last year it was 4,000 and I think one unit ended up being about 5,000.
So you want it back in there then, even though
Yeah.
it's already been requested? Okay. Do you want to do that too, Paul, or are you wanting somebody else to do that?
I would be happy to also do that as June. The speed sign is kind of one of those pet projects of mine that I got involved in about 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah.
So I feel very strongly about their benefits. So yes, I would be happy to attach that to my original motion. Thank you.
At the 5,000 then, Paul, she said it was 5,000.
Sure.
Because I don't think originally that's what the amount was, but
Budget was initially 4,000, but I believe it came from the state. So with the exchange rate and everything, it ended up being a little bit more than what we had budgeted.
I don't know if there's any that are made in Canada. Do you know, Paul? You were the one that actually looked into it.
When I look, I'd have to go back and into my notes, June.
Yeah. Okay.
I contacted somebody more locally, of course. We had that display unit for a while.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure how the procurement process happened after that.
Okay. So that's an increase in the budget for a $5,000 sign and an increase of 5,000 for the continuing ed. We should have a seconder maybe. Walter, all in favor? Carried. And we recommend this to go to council then as a budget, okay? Anything else, Angela?
I think that's good if those are the initiatives that you guys would like to look at this year.
Walter?
Well, I think, and I don't want to flog a dead horse here, but I think when we're looking at the sign, and I did talk to John McClellan, and I do believe most of the signs all come from the States. But if we can get one that's maybe a little more portable than the way we have it there now, then we can move it around. If we have an issue in Broadhaven, we can put it back there, or a mission or an issue in staff. And I think Steve maybe hit the nail right on the head. If it's in one place for too long, people tend to get complacent. But when you move it around and it's a new thing in an area for a period of time, people actually notice it, I think.
Okay. Okay, so the recommendation then to council is for those increases on the budget only. Okay. Any other business that we need to be dealing with, gentlemen? Walter?
Well, I don't know if this is the opportunity. I guess I'm just wondering with regards to oh gosh, Hairfield's complaint. Like obviously there's a couple sides to the story.
Yeah.
The others.
Walter, there's a couple of things I want to do before. I wonder if I can look into that first and then
Okay,
get
no, that's
to
fine.
you and Steve. Is that all right with you?
No, that's good.
Yeah, like you have to take the emotion out of it and just deal with what needs to be dealt with. But anyway, there's a couple of things still. And I did look at the, and it's a service vehicle, and it was parked on the street in the weekend, even after the 15th of October. So yeah, anyway, if you don't mind, I'd like to check a couple of things, and then I'll give you a call, actually, Walter, you and Steve, because I know Steve was dealing with it. Is that all right with you?
Well, it just needs to be followed up. We've had a legitimate complaint.
I'll make sure it's followed up, Walter. Yeah. And like I said, I'm waiting for Steve to call me because I want some information from him too. And I did talk to Scott Bentley about it too. So, okay. If you don't mind. Is that all right, Walter, with you? Can't hear you.
That's fine. No, that's good. It just needs to be followed up. That's all.
Yeah, and I will do that. I'll make sure that happens. Anything else, gentlemen? One more thing. I just want to make sure that everybody realizes that no one, not Walter, council, the board, myself, or administration can interfere with OPP day-to-day activities. That is part of the Police Act. I just want to make sure that everybody understands that. Anything else before we close? John?
Yeah, dude, have we heard anything about the situation in Bornholm or?
Gentlemen?
I can,
Okay.
well, no, let Scott update. He probably knows as much as I do, so yeah.
Is this in reference to the traffic issue and the speeding and the
Yes.
intersection?
Yeah.
The intersection.
Last month, there was a short meeting held with the MTO and with the Perth County Roads Department, John McClellan. And they looked at some different options, I guess, to work on that intersection to decrease collisions. We discussed the amount of collisions and then the different strategies towards, say, decreasing them. So it was the MTO that brought forward a small, like a document or a package outlining it. They attended there, and there were some photographs taken. And again, they had made some suggestions. And I know Scott Bentley, he was also privy to it. I don't have it in front of me, but there is some suggestions about some additional signage for the east-west on 44 coming in. They discussed some of the issues, the curb issues, and the visibility at the side of the roads there on the north-south on 164 there. So I'd have to talk with John McClellan again, and I'd have to look at that document just to kind of verify the potential changes that may occur. So there was a meeting held though.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else, Paul?
So June, it's just kind of a question about protocols and what we should be doing. I'm not familiar with this, so forgive me if somebody can set me straight. We've had a person that's come and made a presentation to Police Services Board asking for us to review something.
Yeah.
And I appreciate the fact that we need more information, or maybe we need more information in order to deal with giving an answer. But I'm also concerned about the optics of us not necessarily being able to discuss it as a group and then following up independently with the person. So maybe that is the traditional way to deal with it. I just feel uncomfortable about the way that someone has come to the board and the way that we're going to proceed with their addressing their concerns.
Yes, this has always been the way. We started this years ago, Paul, because sometimes it gets too heated. And in order to deal with something effectively, you must take all the emotions out of it first. And I always get back to them, Paul, always. And Pauline, when I talked to her, and I did talk to her, I expressed that I would get back to her, but it may not be tomorrow or the next day. Yeah, there has to be some other information. I have a whole lot of information, but there does have to be some other information. I will make sure you're in the loop. I have never kept the board out of any loop. I'm sure you realize that. We will get back to Pauline, but we do have to take the emotion. When people come, it's often an emotional exchange, and it does sometimes get heated, and that's not the way the meeting should go. I hope that helps you understand why you can't deal with it in an open meeting. We're not being secretive, but we do have to do our due diligence. We do have to do our research before any comment can be made. Does that make sense? And I know that administration has been dealing with it. I know there's a whole lot of heated stuff, but we can't deal with it that way. We have to deal with the facts and not the heated emotions. Does that help you? Does that help you, Paul?
Kind of.
Okay.
Okay. I won't push. It's just that if you and I have a conversation, and I totally respect the fact that you always keep individual board members in the loop. But if you and I have a conversation, that doesn't allow me to hear what Steve has to say, or John, or Walter. So that's the collaborativeness of the board is what I was just asking about. So I thank you for hearing me out, and we'll leave it at that.
No. And if that's a concern, unfortunately today we have another Zoom meeting in 15 minutes. So this is going to take longer than 15 minutes to discuss, right, Steve? So I don't know what you want to do. Do you want to have another meeting? Would that be better? Would you feel better about it, Paul?
Maybe I'm offside on this, so I don't hear anybody else suggesting that. So I must be on an island on this one. So
Not necessarily.
I'll be happy that I've had my moment. So I thank you.
Gentlemen?
Paul, it's Rob here. Okay, you hear me?
I do, Rob. Thank
Oh,
you.
sorry.
That was me.
It's been my experience, and I know much of that was directed towards us and a service-related type complaint. I know Scott Bentley is very much engaged with this, as is the municipality. We'll continue to follow that up as we do. Whether that complaint had come to me as a detachment commander directly or via the service board through a delegation, we will continue to work towards a resolution or taking the appropriate action by the appropriate agency. And then we can provide, as June indicated, a report back to the board on that topic, which I know Scott Bentley's not here, but I know Scott's well versed in it. So
Yes.
there's other strategies we may be able to look at in relation to that. But in other areas that I've worked, we've had many delegations come forward at boards, and we basically, from a detachment perspective, we look at it as a concern of the public, and we try and address it as best we can, and then provide a report back to the board on that action, and then answer any questions that the board may have.
Thank you, Rob. That helps me a lot. I appreciate it.
Okay, you're welcome.
And I can just add to Paul's comment, just the caution of, listening to the discussion, the conversation of, kind of off-siding these meetings would be in making decisions as a board outside of the board meeting.
We will not make any decision without the board. We never have, we never will.
I'm just doing my due diligence and just noting that just to be always cautious and in the discussions outside of the board meeting. But that's all I have to add.
I do need to look into something, whether people like it or not, because I am not emotionally involved. You are, Steve is, and Scott is. But I do need to hear what the concerns are without the emotion. I hope you understand that, Carla.
Yep.
Okay, I need a motion to adjourn unless there's something else that you would like to discuss.
Jeff is looking for you.
Yes, Jeff?
I just want to clarify, Chair, that the comment about emotion is okay, but advancing the business of the board is what we're talking about. And so I think you're getting good advice from the clerk about walking the line of talking to individual board meetings that can be perceived as advancing the business of the board. And I would encourage you to listen to that advice.
Thank you, Jeff. I've done this for a number of years and I'm well aware of the line that I need to walk, and I have never crossed it. I don't plan to cross it, but I do plan to look into this and see what it's all about. And I think I have the right to do that. If you look at what the ability of the chair is. I never make a decision. It has never been made by me. I know it's the board. I am well aware, but thank you for your concern. Any other concerns, gentlemen? I need a motion to adjourn, please. Steve and John, thank you very much, gentlemen. And I will not do anything on behalf of the board that shouldn't be done. I can assure you. I'm not new at the job. Thank you and have a good day. I will see you in 10 minutes? And everybody has the link.